you have a quorum.
He's on mute.
Jamie, you talking? You're on
Okay, great. Okay, great. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order and get started. Do we have any self-identification of members that have any potential conflict of interest regarding issues with today's meeting?
Alicia Webb, Edgington Life Learning Center.
Others? Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes that was distributed with the packet information. Do I hear any changes for the April 14th minutes? Then do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion. This
That
is
was
Dave.
Dave, do we have a second?
This is
Second.
Gavin. I'll second.
All right, Chad, we had a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, and it's data analysis. And Tara, that has your name next to it.
Does, and let's see. Okay, hopefully everybody can see me all right. I just wanted to share a few things. Maybe data analysis is not quite the right term for this, but I did want to share a few things that we have learned from, and Ellen will be getting to some of our updates from the Career Center, so I don't want to go too deeply into that, but I did want to say, just from my point of view, that we are seeing a reduction in the number of calls about unemployment. And that is very much a good thing. We, at one point at the height, were the Career Center team, and so many of them have pivoted from their regular jobs in order to help the state address all the calls about unemployment insurance. We're hearing that they should be able to pivot back to their normal responsibilities soon. At the height, the team was experiencing about 2,500 calls and about 1,000 emails a week, just locally in Northern Kentucky. And you've all heard about the hundreds of thousands of unemployment claims across the Commonwealth. We're down well under 2,000 calls a week. And so we know now that the claims that are remaining, there are still new claims coming in, and I'll talk about that in just a second, but those that are remaining from some, we've heard even maybe from March, but April and May tend to be the more complex. Really not going to be able to be handled by anybody except the trained unemployment insurance staff members, and what they've been referring to those level 3 or tier 3. And so what that means again is that our career services team, our OA staff, Brighton Center, even OVR, CDO, eventually they'll be able to get back in the business of helping people find jobs, which we know is going to be extremely important going forward. The other thing I was going to share is that we have heard from Rapid Response. That team is doing a great job contacting all of the employers that have issued warn notices. And I'm going to take it at this point, at least, as a good thing that most of them have declined to have Rapid Response come into their facility. And the reason they've declined is because they feel really strongly they're hoping that those layoffs will be temporary. And we did have just the first Rapid Response this week. Again, Ellen can get into the details if she'd like to, but feeling cautiously optimistic about the fact that those employers that have had the larger layoffs have said, look, we hope that these are going to be temporary. And on our website, nkcareercenter.org, on the main page, you'll have the jobs marketplace continuing to list new positions there on a regular basis. So again, don't want to diminish what we've seen as very high increases in the unemployment rate. very concerning, and obviously we're monitoring that closely. But we're really hopeful that we will be able to come out of this maybe quicker than we originally thought. On a note about how the WIB is able to respond, we did apply for a grant from the state. It was actually a federal grant that they received, the National Dislocated Worker Grant. We applied for a component, a portion of those funds. This is a total of $6 million that Kentucky received. And I'm pleased to let you know that of the 10 regions, Northern Kentucky received $789,181.80. So more than our 10% portion of that. And we plan to use that to help fund a number of temporary jobs, and as well as some training we're hoping in the very near future. So we're actually meeting as a staff later today. It wasn't quite as much as we had requested. We were a little, hopeful that maybe we could get a little bit more funding, but very happy and very pleased and thankful that the state was able to give us what we received. And so we'll be working on how that's going to be allocated to all the nonprofits and governmental entities that came to us and applied for that. It's humanitarian, safety, sanitation, temporary jobs for dislocated workers that were affected by COVID-19. To make sure you know that, pretty excited about it. And then the last thing I'll just mention as a shameless plug is that we do have our awards coming up in September. That'll likely be a virtual event, but we are still taking nominations for both community partners, staff, and clients who we feel are really innovating in the area of workforce development. And so the deadline for those nominations is Friday. And so if you have someone you would like to nominate, please go ahead and do that this week. I'm going to leave it there for now unless anybody has any questions. Jamie, do you have any questions?
No, good report. Anybody else have any
Tara,
questions?
Yes,
yeah, Tara, this is Dana. Just real quick, has the state given any indication on when those Tier 3 unemployment requests will be resolved, any timeline? And the reason I ask is I actually have a friend who, she was in childcare and is still waiting for resolution. She hasn't gotten any money at all. So I'm sure that there are plenty of other people, and that's why I'm asking. I just got a note from her the other day. She's still waiting for her unemployment. Any idea from the state when they anticipate those being resolved?
I mean, I am seeing a reduction by, up to 10,000 a week in some cases. Oh, hold on one second. I gotta let somebody in. Sorry about that. I would say the short answer is, Dana, that we are not really seeing a timeline from them. We are really not seeing any specific timeline. I think it was a week or two ago that there were about 10,000 claims remaining from April, and I think it was something like 40,000 from May. So, I mean, I think they're continuing to, work through those, and they've changed their process a little bit. So it's mostly email based now, because they found that that's the most effective way to get through those. But, I mean, I would just say that it's been quite the deluge, and they're definitely working on it. If you want to chat offline, we do have a way to call the local CDO staff for kind of, local claims. So we could talk about that.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Jamie. Jamie, can I interrupt just a second? You may have noticed that there's some new faces on the screen. So I just want to welcome. They are part of the NKWIB committee, and they just wanted to sit in on our meeting and see how we do things in Northern Kentucky. So welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Glad to have you. Any other questions for Tara? All right. we will move on to our next agenda topic, which is child care needs in Northern Kentucky. And I think Shannon's going to kind of kick us off in that.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm going to just talk through 3 different areas. One, I just want to talk just overall about just childcare in general and some of the challenges of providing in Kentucky. Then I'll talk about the reopening, and then I'll end with some of the needs for CDA and professional development and training. So many of you are aware that financially, the model for childcare is very challenging. You might not be aware, and I'm aware of this because we operate centers in both Ohio and Kentucky, that the reimbursement rate is a couple $1,000s less per year per child. So it becomes very challenging to, with lower provider reimbursement rates, to just flat out provide infant, toddler, and preschool care in our region. On a positive note, we have very strong advocacy. Many people that are on this phone call, as well as United Way, have put together a really strong voice for grassroots advocacy, and we're making some headway. So we did get some provider rate increases a couple years ago. And you might know that we did get some relief through the CARES Act, $225 per licensed childcare slot as opposed to per attending childcare slot. So that was very helpful. And the point of that was to try to retain the amount of childcare providers in the region. You might also hear people talk about quality deserts in both Ohio and Kentucky. And so I think Kentucky made the decision, let's give some money back to childcare for the pandemic challenges that have happened, so we can make sure that we don't experience a significant loss like they're experiencing nationally. You have probably heard or read about the number of national childcare closures. So you can read either percentages of 30 to 40% are not, depending on the survey, are not likely to reopen, or some of the latest things are 100,000 provider closures across the country. So that's having a huge impact. I'm not as clear yet on the impact it's having in Northern Kentucky. I'm finding around that. Probably no, and can then, because of the low provider reimbursement wages, so it makes it really difficult to for standpoints.
Karen, we may have, or Shannon, we may have lost you.
She's still showing up as present.
One of those lovely things of Zoom is when you get to freeze your face in a certain position.
Yeah, she's frozen. Yeah, you're frozen, Shannon.
Sign back on. Okay, now?
Yeah, you might want to turn off your video and just see if that
okay. Was I frozen for a long time?
for a little while.
Oh, awesome. All right, let me try. Can you?
Yeah, it's a poor, sounds like a poor network connection.
Yeah, we lost you right after "can you?"
Yeah, an option is to always dial in, but do we want to keep working on this, or Tara, do you want to go on and discuss the action item regarding child care training track?
Yeah. Well, the action item, of course, is the childcare training discussion. So, of course, we intended to build on what Shannon had to say. Of course, technology. So, basically, in the packet, you received a small white paper that just told a little bit about child care in Northern Kentucky, even mentioned across the state, across the nation. It's one of the largest problems that we're going to face when people go back to work, because we do have the reduced slots. Of course, we can't, as a WIB, conquer that problem by ourselves, but we can certainly be hopefully ahead of the game. So what we're asking today is that we take some of the money that we received, the money that Tara was talking about, and we do a CDA, Child Development Associates cohort. It would be, there's Shannon. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? I'm now super paranoid that you can't, that I'm frozen.
You
No,
have
we can hear you just fine.
All right. So I have no idea what part you heard and what you didn't. So do you want me to just abbreviate it, or I don't want to put a kink into your agenda?
Hey, Shannon.
Yeah.
We kind of started sort of setting up why we were asking you to go over
Perfect.
this. So maybe we'll let Tony kind of keep explaining it, and then you can fill in some gaps about how you think maybe this would help. Would that work?
I think that's a safe way. Let's do that.
Okay, so what we're asking for as far as the action item is to use part of the $700 and some odd that we received from the state to do the cohort for the CDA, the Child Care Development Associates, to encourage in-home child care. It's not a huge cohort. It's not a huge amount of money. It would be anywhere between 10 to 20, probably not quite 20, just simply because of our distancing guidelines. But we would do our we would do our classroom in the Innovation Center, and it would be reduced. They wouldn't be in class as long as a normal CDA or Child Development Associates degree would take, but it is fast tracked, so we could really get them out and you know, in their home and watching children. Any questions about that?
Did you say it was for family child care or child care centers, or both? I missed that part.
It's both.
Good.
Yeah, they would certainly work in a facility. I should have pointed that out.
I think I don't have a question, but just to amplify, is one of the things when 4C wasn't able to provide Northern Kentucky services that we as a provider worried about was professional development overall. And in particular, we had partnered with Brighton Center and 4C on a fast track CDA program. So it'd be really helpful with childcare having national turnover in the 30%, which will just get higher. We have found that when there are professional development opportunities right in our region, we tend to attract and retain more providers. So that was a big question mark for us of like, who will take over the CDA program. And so we even have people that are trained, and so does Brighton Center, in providing the CDA. So I have found it to be an incredibly helpful thing to get people through the pipeline or to retain current staff, because the quality requirements don't go away. Those are built into our stars, and you need degree teachers or people on a pathway for a degree.
Jamie, it's Alicia. May I pose a question to Shannon, please?
Absolutely.
Shannon, to your point about the fast tracking, do you have any liability issues relative to the fast tracking? Is there a time period for which you have to complete or the credentialing for the individuals that are taking the CDA, or is it, I mean, I'm just curious about your potential liability.
Yeah, the liability comes more in the content. So if it's not done correctly, and less about the timing. So we wanted just to make sure that the content that's covered also has follow-up coaching. So it's more on the how we do it and not so much the required time frame, if that makes sense, Alicia.
And Shannon, just to add briefly, am I correct that the CDA has, like, the finalization of it has a practical component too, where someone has to spend time shadowing?
Yes.
Can you talk about
Yes.
that a little bit?
Sure. And if it didn't have it, the recommendation in the past from 4C and Brighton Center and others that do quality is that we would have it. Not clear, and I could email everybody the details of how much practical experience, but there is time that needs to be out care centers. I know that and Brighton Center actually welcomed, and they eventually don't become your employers, but they could become your employers. So there is a required time. It's not too laborious for the person getting their CDA because they might be, working or doing something else and switching the career. But from a provider standpoint, we would absolutely want them to have practical in-classroom experience as well as in the training classroom experience. So I'm not remembering, because it was a while ago when we did the fast track and the hybrid. I'm not remembering how much time is in classroom though.
Thank you, Shannon.
Yes. Am I frozen again?
No, I just said
I hear you, Shannon.
I just said
Okay.
thanks.
Oh, thanks. I won't remain paranoid the whole time.
Okay.
Other questions on the topic? Tony, you did a great job of presenting along with Shannon. I don't know, does somebody want to phrase exactly what we want the motion to be? Because this is an action item.
Okay, so I would like to say one other thing, and just full disclosure. We are asking to do this training. However, this is not on our approved provider list because it is not a high demand sector to pay. But we do feel like that it is certainly crucial to restarting the workforce in Northern Kentucky. So that is why we bring this to you. Normally we do not bring, individual trainings before you, but, like I said, full disclosure, I want you to know that. So you can make your decision based on all the facts.
And I would just add, Jamie, that I think what we're looking for is a motion along the lines of the board, the PY committee, and eventually the full WIB approving this training as a, in addition to our typical training that we do for our targeted industries, because of the clear support to the overall workforce that child care provides, really always, but especially right now. So that's what we're seeking, approval to add this to our approved types of training that we provide.
Which I
I
think,
had a quick question.
I think it's very innovative and responsive.
Yes, Chad.
No, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a good thing to move forward with. I just had a question on the training. Is it going to provide training for individuals to be able to just get a job with a child care facility, or does it teach them to actually open up their own company and be a child care facility?
It's either one, Chad. They can either work in a facility or they can do in-home child care.
And then the certification that they receive, I know there was some discussion on, I guess, government funding that was available to some people if they were certified or if they were licensed. Does that get them the license so that in the future they would be able to access that money if this happens again in the future? Does that make sense?
Shannon, do you know the answer?
Yeah. It's not so much license, because that's the basic qualifications. It gets you more STAR funding. So the more stars you get, the higher your reimbursement rate as a provider gets. So if you're a family child care provider or you're a child care center, you get rated 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So when you have more CDA and degreed staff, or you go from a high school diploma to a CDA as a family child care provider, your reimbursement rate is higher, which is a very good incentive.
Okay, great. No, I'm all in. Thank you.
Sure.
Tony, just a real quick question. Is the intent to do this as a cohort versus individual training accounts? Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. We do intend to do it as a cohort simply because the class will be put together specifically to serve our clients.
Yeah.
We will fill up the class.
Okay.
All good questions. Any other? Okay, we need a motion to accept the child care training that's been presented. Does somebody like to make that?
Jamie, it's Alicia. So moved.
Alicia.
Do we have a second?
second it.
Thank you, Chad. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, sounds like it's go. Thank you. The next topic that we have on our agenda is our partnership with Brighton Center, and Ellen, we will turn it over to you.
Awesome, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I apologize, it seems like technical difficulties are kind of the name of the game this morning. I'm calling in on my phone because my computer shut down, so I apologize for any disconnect there. You know, as Tara mentioned earlier, just wanted to provide a, you know, an update on what's been happening at the Career Center, and as we've been transitioning to virtual services, and kind of how we've been able to make that transition. Obviously, you know, a large portion of what we have been doing has been unemployment insurance and supporting the Career Development Office, and the just, you know, huge influx that they have received. But we are starting to see you know, that customers are shifting to that job search piece now, as things start to reopen. If they haven't been called back to their previous position, or that position hasn't opened up yet, they are, you know, we are getting customers that are asking about that job search piece. So wanted to go over a couple of the things that we've been able to do to kind of transition that. And so, you know, first thing that we did is we immediately started a career coach at brightoncenter.com email address. So that way we can publicize that via, you know, social media and our website. And it is an easy way for job seekers to request a virtual appointment. And so we can do Zoom career coaching appointments via that. They can submit their resume and say, hey, can somebody take a look at this? You know, and we can make connections to businesses that are hiring via that web or that email address. And that gets sent out to our talent development specialist so that someone can quickly pick up that request as it comes in. And last meeting, we talked about the Facebook Live that we've started for featuring an employer weekly, and so we are still doing that. We've seen a lot of success with that. Each week on Thursday mornings, we feature a local employer who is hiring. Recently, within the last 2 weeks, we have started a Facebook Live with a career coach. So the intent of that is to bring to our job seekers who are, again, starting that job search process, the programs and resources that we have available in the Career Center. And so last week we talked about the job search marketplace and our Focus Career website, which allows job seekers to search for employment. And this week we are featuring the Unemployment Bridge program through Brighton Center's Financial Services, which provides potential mortgage assistance to customers who may be struggling with, you know, getting their mortgage paid during this time. And so really excited to bring that resource to the public. In addition, you know, we're continuing our partnership with the Kenton County Public Library with our Elevator Pitch Power Hour. That is a virtual workshop that happens monthly, designed to, you know, help job seekers with their networking and how they present themselves. We were able to transition our resume workshop to a virtual format starting this week, and so that will also be a monthly workshop that is available. And it looks like that I neglected to send the most current version of the PowerPoint as we're kind of going through all of the different pieces of things. There's so much to talk about, so it's difficult to narrow it down. So I did want to bring about some youth specific things, you know, that I intended to include on this. And so our youth team created a COVID-19 resource guide for our Opportunity Youth population, really specific to helping them navigate the world of a global pandemic and how they can access those resources. They have also done a resume workshop for 30 AmeriCorps youth members who are looking to finish up their AmeriCorps year and transition into the workforce, and so that was very successful. Our youth cohort, which we had planned in partnership with Gateway and CVG, is still on hold at this time. The CDL program is waiting for the Kentucky State Police to reopen so that as those customers go through the training, they can then get tested and licensed. And so that is something that we are waiting for that piece to move, to be able to move forward with that cohort. But we are still communicating with all partners in that, and do plan to get a date set for that as soon as we are able to. Some other virtual opportunities are the Career Edge platform, which provides job seekers just some training modules in terms of job search, whether it's mock interviews or a career assessment. That is a new thing through the state that we are introducing to our job seekers, and also incorporating in our existing workshops to enhance those virtual services. And then lastly, we were able to transition the TABE to virtual testing, which has really allowed us to move forward with customer registration for WIOA services. And if we could move on to, awesome, thank you. And it's very tiny on my phone screen. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so mentioned our Facebook Live already. From the employer end of the Facebook Live, we've had successful job placement via Facebook Live, which is great. A customer who was able to learn about an opportunity and then get placed. We're also seeing a big demand from employers through that, which is a great sign that, we do have many employers in the area who are ramping up services and are looking to hire a large number of people. So we have employers scheduled through mid-July to be featured through that. And this is a service that we intend to continue even as things kind of go back to normal. We see this as a plus for our virtual services for sure. As Tara mentioned, our rapid response activity, we did hold our first virtual rapid response via Zoom last week, and we had 35 job seekers attend that to gain information about the Career Center resources. While we have had over 800 affected workers in the area since March via those rapid response warn notices, we have not had a huge response to holding an actual rapid response session, because many of them are temporary jobs or temporary layoffs, which we of course see as a good sign, and are anxious for those individuals to be called back to employment. We made changes for business services to our local phone system. So when you call the local line, in addition to getting connected to the Amazon Connect to allow us to increase the capacity for unemployment insurance, there is also an option for employer services, which gets connected directly to to Eric Owsley, who is our regional workforce coordinator, and he is able to connect those employers to the services that they're seeking. And then lastly, we are researching virtual job fair and hiring event platforms. While the Facebook Live is a great way to get information out that is hiring, we are looking for the ability to do a larger scale session that would connect job seekers and employers, since it doesn't look like our 300-person attending job fairs are going to be back anytime soon. So we're exploring virtual platforms for that, and excited to bring that up. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ellen. Does anybody have any questions for Ellen? All right, we will turn it back over to the staff for our next section on accountability and transparency, and have a key suite update. It's all fixed, I'm sure.
We attended, and when I say we, Jason Ashbrook and David Klockner and myself virtually attended some demonstrations on systems to replace Key Suite. I'm not going to give you a lot of details simply because we don't know what's going to happen and we have no idea which direction the state's going to go. I will say that one we all agreed that it felt superior to the other one simply because it felt like it was built for WIOA. And so, and Jason and David, feel free to jump in and say anything you want to. But all I can tell you right now is that, the demos are out there, the state's exploring, and it looks like we will have a replacement for Key Suite at some point. And really, that is all I know.
Just
Questions?
amazed that the state has actually got the message and are looking at other systems. That's actually a win. I'm excited about that.
Yes, definitely. That is exciting.
Hey, Tony, I know you told us before, or somebody did, what did we spend on Key Suite that the state's now getting ready to say they're just going to trash?
What did we spend on Key Suite?
42 or 52 million.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And to subsequently add on to Jamie's question, Tony, did the state indicate what this new purchase is going to cost the taxpayers?
No, we have received no information about that.
Okay, thank you.
Hopefully somebody considers going back after who created Key Suite and trying to recap some of those dollars.
Yeah.
I would just add to the questions, just to make everybody aware that one thing we have not heard is if CHFS will continue to use Key Suite, because right now they are using it as well for some of their other programs like Employment Connections, right?
They use it for SNAP. They do
SNAP.
not use it for TANF.
That's right, for SNAP. So we have not yet heard if they will continue using it for some of that programming. So just FYI, more questions to be answered at a later date.
Great, good information. All right, the next thing we had was Liberty was going to give us an update on the fiscal KPIs.
Yes, before Liberty gets started, I was just going to add just a reminder that because of this committee meeting falling in the early part of the month, we have, and this happens every time we meet, that the May KPI has not yet been created because we're still finishing up, closing out the month of May, but it will be finished as it always is by the time the executive committee meets, and of course you'll see it at the next full WIB meeting. But I just always like to kind of reiterate why it is that you're looking at April. So I'm going to pull that up and we'll let Liberty get started. Just 1 second. Sorry. Nope, that's not it. Okay, Liberty, there you go.
Okay, good morning. As Tara mentioned, this report is for April of 2020, which is 83% of the fiscal year. And if you look down at your lower right-hand side of the report, you will see our expenditures to date through April 30th.
Sorry.
We're pretty much on track. We are a little bit lower on the ITAs, of course, and the work experience because of the COVID.
Okay. Sorry, it's actually trying to make it better.
There it is.
There we go. So you can see that the WIB's expenditures are 79% as of April 30th. The subcontractor is at 66%. The GROW, we have paid that, so it's more than 33%. It just hasn't been expensed through our finance department just yet. And that's about it. Overall, it looks like we're at 59% expended. Does anybody have any
Hey,
questions?
Liberty, do you recall where we were at this same time last year with that 59%? Was it 59% last year? Was it 58%? Where were we at this time last year?
That's a great question. I do not have that number in front of me right now, but I'm confident that it was much higher because of the ITA accounts were higher. The educational career enhancement funds were higher, as well as the work experience. So since COVID, since mid-March, our expenditures have decreased significantly, even with travel for staff members, obviously, because we're not traveling, we're doing all of our meetings via Zoom. So like for the ad, I mean, we're usually spot on to the point in time, and we're only at 79% right now. So I don't want to make up a number, but I know that it was a lot higher.
That's fine, thank you. Other questions for Liberty? All right, thank you, Liberty. The last agenda item that we have is our director's update.
Yes, I'm back again. I really covered the majority of what I wanted to talk about this morning in the earlier update. I will just say that as we move forward into the recovery process, we're really interested in making sure that we're working with all of our local partners, such as Triad, Northern Kentucky Chamber, obviously the GROW initiative. We're all already, Dana's on that steering committee as a voting member, and we support her in that work to make sure that we are able to support the economy as things continue to change and evolve. And that's why, you know, we would appreciate your vote today, one step closer to being able to respond to the childcare crisis that we're seeing, and we want to be able to, you know, be as nimble as we can, you know, as a team and as a staff to support people as they continue to have challenges. So, you know, if there's something that comes up that any of you all are seeing from your own workforce, I think the staff would be very interested to be hearing that feedback. Because it is really important for us to understand what's happening. That's why each of you are on the WIB, is because of your firsthand experience and knowledge of what's happening in the workforce, in the world of training and education. So that's really what I would say is our next steps, is just gearing up for whatever may come, and trying to be as responsive as we can possibly be to our community's needs. So that's really all I have today, Jamie.
All right, well, thank you, Tara. That wraps up today's meeting. I want to thank our guests for joining us today, if some of them are still on, and certainly thank all the committee members for allowing us to, knock on wood, for the last several meetings have quorum. So it's been nice to be able to do that as well. So any other final business anybody has they want to bring forward?
Chairman, this is Melissa Aguilar. I'd like to certainly say thank you for allowing us to listen in. Northern Kentucky's always had so many best practices that we've pulled from, so we intend to try to share as much as we possibly can.
Glad to have you, Melissa. All right, well, we will wrap it up today, and y'all have a good rest of the week. Thank you.